Good morning. Welcome to the coverage of the Ultimate Australian Championships Division 2 here in sunny Canberra. You're joined in the booth to the start by Rex Johnson and Phil Shields. We're currently sorting out the last minute tech stuff, but we're here ready to go for the first pool of the Quench Y New South Wales versus Melbourne Carnage game. Thank you for tuning in. We'll endeavour to get more functionality up and running soon, including a remote commentator from New Zealand hopefully, so we'll make that work. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks, Rex. Yes, we've got Melbourne Carnage to the left of screen in white. They will be pulling to Quench in yellow to the right of screen. We'll see them in a moment. Only a slight breeze at the moment from a back, so it's going from the bottom of your screen to the top of your screen. There's the pull. Comes to the near side. Dumped by Quench. That one through the hands of the Quench receiver. So Melbourne Carnage, the chance, puts it long. And there is a call. I think pick might be the call. So bring that in, stall count 3 by the looks of it. Carnage with a vert stack. Textbook dump, 45 degrees behind in the middle of the field. Brought back into play now. Looking for the dump. Upfield. Intercepted by Quench player. So Quench, this is their Y squad. It's actually bench XY, so this is, they call themselves Quench Y. Dump swing, upfield. And Quench not making good use of their opportunity. So a couple of turnovers early. That wind has died down. Up the line. Nice receive. Good put. To the advantage of the player. And that was bobbled out of the hands. That one's going up, it's going long. And we have our first score of the game. So Quench from New South Wales, opening their account, 1-0. Quench are second in their pool. Carnage are fourth in this pool. A couple of turnovers in the first point. A bit scrappy. As I said, just a minor win going from low screen to high screen behind us. So it shouldn't be anything too much to trouble these boys, even at this Div 2 level. Carnage, centre the disc, move it up the field, through the hands. Another chance for Quench. Just around midfield at the moment. dump. Resets. Moving up the line. Gained about 10 metres in that, while the dump reset actually slips. A nice interception there. That bobbles out of the hands of the Carnage receiver. That's probably their most solid look to get their first point of this game. So we have had a bit of dew overnight, and we've seen a couple of slips already by the Quench boys. Another interception. Inside break. Over the top. That's a nice slap away by the Quench defender. Reaching over the top, not infringing, not making contact of any sort. Very clean D. Looking long, it's going to drop short. It's going to be another interception by Carnage. Unmarked receiver. Now the mark's being put on. There's been a pick call. Disc is brought back in, easy under. Number 7, Carnage, doing a lot of work at the moment. Getting a few touches. As thrown in front, but Quench saw the play happening. Someone's going deep. He wants it deep, wants it long. Doesn't have the throw. There's a bit of traffic in the way, preventing that throw. And we have a turnover just outside the Carnage end zone. So looking at red zone play at the moment from the Melbourne Carnage team. It's a nice inside break. And we have Carnage opening their account.
Go Carnage! Carnage!
First 2 points done in this game. Quench Y versus Melbourne Carnage, 1 apiece. About 3 turns in each of the first few points by each team, 2 to 3 turns each. We've had both scores to the left of screen. Not that there's a win going that way, it's just the way it's panned out at the moment. We are at the Australian Div 2 National Championships here in Canberra. Nice sunny day. Not too sure what the projected maximum is today, but it feels like it could be low to mid 20s. Good sunshine, minimal cloud coverage. Nice easy under, Quench. Good movement. No mark, now the mark's put on. Looking for a break throw, not coming. Open side. Had to dive to get that one. Now breeze has picked up a little bit. See the flag, bottom of screen there. It might cause a little bit of trouble for these Div 2 boys. It's a good inside break, looking for something deep and long field. Both go up, but the Quench defender gets the better of that matchup. Quench now on the offensive. That's a big around. Nice strong grab by Quench. So in this third point, both Quench and Melbourne still trying to find their feet at the moment. Not doing anything too out of the ordinary. Playing within themselves. No mark on at the moment, so the disc will come back at in still count 0. Pick on the fat side, that's why that Quench receiver was wide open. The wind has picked up a little bit. It's a good throw. Goes into the end zone. Quench receiver is there. He wanted to look for that one to lay out, thought twice about it, and didn't in the end. The grass is just superb. It's supreme here at these fields for laying out at the moment. There's absolutely no reason why these boys shouldn't attempt to lay out. Long disc goes up to a pack, and last line of defense gets a hand to it, pushes it to the ground. Small hole there found. Dump swing to the end zone. More defensive action. And you wouldn't pick that Quench is 2 in the pool and Carnage is 4 at the moment. There is a lot of evenness between these two teams.
Thanks for keeping us company, Phil. I've just been doing some work in the background. We've hopefully got Blair Munro on commentary in live from New Zealand. If you can hear us, Blair, give us a shout.
I sure can. Can you hear me? How are we doing, gentlemen?
Quench come up with their second point.
We'll endeavour to keep working on that and we'll get back to you.
An absolute beautiful game so far.
with the pull. Pull lands just over halfway. Nice 20-metre gain up the field. Brings it up to the offensive brick mark. Another minimal stoppage. Disc coming in on 0. Disc is in play. I wasn't too sure what happened as far as the Quench defense happened there. But that gave Carnage an easy score.
Thanks for that, Phil. I think we've got Blair here. Are you there, Blair?
Hello, can you hear me?
We have got you.
Oh, brilliant. Welcome, gentlemen. Thank you so much for having me. Having a few issues with the time machine. Being in New Zealand, a couple of hours in the future means I already know how the game is going to turn out, but I'll choose not to spoil it for you, and we'll keep watching this thing unfold.
No worries. Thank you for joining us, Blair.
It is an absolute pleasure to be here. I'm seeing some fantastic disc work from both of these teams so far. Phil, we've had the pleasure of playing on the same team before. And so it's good to have you here with us as well. As you said, we've got teams rated 2nd and 4th in their pool respectively. But trading, going 2 for 2 with some really, really clever disc movement and some really nice end zone defense. It's a really, really close game. I'm having an absolute blast watching it.
Yeah, no worries. You've just got Phil can't hear you at the moment, so I'll work on that. So stay with us.
No problem.
Thank you for joining us.
As long as you got me, happy to help.
No worries. I'll just pass you over to Phil now.
So we have Carnage with the pull. 2-all.
So the pull goes out of bounds. Will be brought in, looks like at the brick mark. Great long shot going up.
Taken to the brick mark. 1 pull play by Quench.
Great score there as they go 3-2 over the Melbourne Carnage. Awesome bid by the defence there, but not quite enough to put the pressure on. So a great secure score there.
Hello, Blair.
Hello, Phil. Long
Blair,
time no speak.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah.
I'd say you just had some championships in New Zealand. Do you want to just give us a quick rundown of what happened there?
Yeah, no problem. So it was only a couple of weeks ago down in wonderful Christchurch. We had some of the best teams, some of the best Ultimate in the Southern Hemisphere up until the start of this Australian Ultimate Championships weekend. And yeah, it was a weird bit of a mirror thing in both the Opens and Women's Division. Teams from Wellington took it out. Then teams from Auckland in 2nd place and teams from Christchurch coming in 3rd. So there was quite a strong sort of mirroring across both of those divisions. We also had a couple of wonderful showcase games between our national sides and some teams from that pooled, so that training development. Absolutely beautiful beautiful games to watch. It's just a shame that the lads from Ulti TV weren't there to help us film them.
Would have liked to have come over. Meanwhile, we're back in this game. And would you like to commentate this point, Blair?
Absolutely. So we're seeing the Melbourne Carnage 1 point down, working up that far sideline. Big hammer goes across. Great coverage by Quench for an interception, looking to quickly initiate an offense back downfield. Big rip goes up. Single coverage. The hat comes off. Goes to ground to keep that one alive, just shy of the zone. Only a 5-10 meter pass to close that one off. It's a high OI forehand straight to an open receiver. Defense just out of position as Quench now 2 up over the Melbourne Carnage after a great quick offense after a turn. We'll get to see that again. Just a beautiful clean forehand. Seeing that defense out of position, maybe poaching off. Really great open receiver, and it's a target like that that's almost impossible to resist. Great work there by the New South Wales side.
So that's our first score to the right of screen. They've all been going to left of screen at the moment, but there's no wind to affect that as such. Just a light zephyr here going from the bottom of the screen to the top of the screen, so from our back going away from us.
So we're dealing predominantly with a crosswind then, Phil.
Yes.
So we're not seeing a huge amount of advantage with a sort of typical upwind downwind that you might see. So it is a bit curious that that's kind of the first point we've actually seen go towards that right-hand side of the screen. It's not dictated by wind, so it could just be maybe players taking a little while to adapt to that cross breeze. As you mentioned, there's quite a sort of lot of dew on the ground, so it's been a little bit damp. Players just taking an opportunity to warm up for the first game of the tournament, to get themselves in condition, to get aware of the conditions that they're playing under, and hopefully we'll see things swinging both ways a little bit more quickly throughout the rest of this match.
Yes, exactly. So timeout taken by, I'm not sure who called that. Did you get to see that, Blair?
No, I did not, unfortunately.
That's okay.
But I would assume that would be the Melbourne Carnage taking the timeout, as we can see on the line. And some great leadership. The old coaches and captains taking a knee, trying to give some last-minute guidance to the 7 on the line. Quench on a great string of points here. Is that 4-2 that we've got now? Slowly widening that gap.
I think I've got 3-2 at the moment.
Okay. But a great sort of a great opportunity to take a timeout, regardless of which team you're playing for. It's that a couple of points being traded here and there. Taking a timeout is just a good opportunity to say, hey, we've made it here. It's Div 2. We want to play big. We want to leave everything behind. This is what we've been training for. What's working? What's not working? How can we make our presence known on the big stage? So regardless of whether you're up, down, by 1, by 3, by 5, this kind of stage in the game, particularly when those scores are close, it's a great opportunity to just consolidate everything you've worked for so far, make sure everyone's back on the same page, and then come out firing after the timeout break.
This is our first hut, which has actually gone into the end zone. Interception by Quench, bring it down the near sideline. Looking for the dump with nice reset. It's got a bit of air on it, but it's a solid grab, but a pick called. Thought that looked like it was taken a bit too easily. That's a great grab disc thrown behind him, had to slow down on a dime, reach back, another inside throw. Quench gets their score.
Quench putting on an absolutely fantastic show for us this early in the morning, really coming out firing on a Friday morning at 9 o'clock. A lot more energy than I think I'd be able to bring. Just really great reads on that defense. We've seen quite a few of those interception plays being made. Maybe a little bit much edge on some of these forehands. They're trying to hit some of these narrower angles, but that Quench defense really sealing off their players, shutting down some of those windows, forcing some throws, and then being athletic enough to put themselves in a position to close those ones off and then quickly convert from them.
Yes, and Quench, I don't know if you heard the beginning of the stream, Blair. The Quench have decided to go XY in this Div 2 tournament. As we go across the field and we see more of the play in the middle of the field, you actually see their X team on the field above.
So it's curious to consider that, particularly for a tournament like this. So just to clarify for the folks watching at home who maybe aren't as sort of familiar with the way that clubs typically run teams, you'd normally have an A team and a B team. You'd push all of your talent into sort of that A team as much as possible. You might have some senior players take up roles in a B team. Going XY, you're trying to keep those two teams as balanced as possible, which is a great option in things like warm-up tournaments, pre-selection. But by the time you hit tournaments, you normally want to run a sort of an A-B split. We noticed the same sort of thing in the New Zealand Championships just recently. A big shot goes up and catching your Ds, that's the thing. Quench intercepting straight into the hands of the Carnage player. Running that XY just goes to show the strength of the Quench players in both of those teams. If there's no real way to have one team stand out that much more than the other. We had the same thing with Dogma in the Ultimate Championships here. Great pressure on that defense.
Yes, the defensive hand just getting in the way there.
Quench to set up in a vertical stack. Great deep cut developing, a lot of separation, but it doesn't come. Manages to work to the near side of the sideline. Straight over the top to the hands, finding Carnage. Number 7, a great 5-10 meter gainer as they approach the far sideline. Continuing that flow up that side of the field. Great upline cut gets sealed off by Quench defense. And a huge bid to keep that one out of the hands of Carnage.
That just being bobbled a little bit. Tried a second or third attempt to catch it. Not able to pull it off.
There's the big shot. Nice forehand, a lot of edge as it comes down a little bit short, Mark. And closes one off with a laser beam, jumped in, called in by Quench as they go up by another point. Potentially not. There looks to have been a call of the players to whether or not the first contact after securing the disc was with the line. So the perimeter lines as part of an ultimate field are not considered part of the playing area. So if the first point of contact was with that line at the front of the end zone, the disc does need to be brought out back into the playing area, and then play can continue from there. So that looks to be the resolution of that discussion. Some great self-officiation there by both sides. Disc is checked in, comfortably closed out by Quench. Great way to finish that point off. Just a couple of really nice passes there. I think there was a 4-pass offense. We had that one great centering pass, a big forehand up, and then a couple of quick closes from that brick, and then after that call. Like I always say, it is hard to beat Ultimate on a good day, and it is even harder to beat good Ultimate on a good day. That is exactly what Quench Y are bringing out as they go 5-2 over Melbourne Carnage.
So Quench now showing why they are at number 2 in the pool. And starting to pull away now. It was a bit scrappy to start off with.
And really, I wonder if that's something that has contributed to this string of breaks that we're seeing from the Quench side. At our mixed Ultimate Championships in New Zealand around November, our Division 1, we had the same thing. The lowest seed up against, I think it was the 5th seed. One of their early matches started the match off with a break to the surprise of pretty much everyone except those players on the Massey Chargers. And it's the same sort of thing. You have a team that is in a position where they know they're seated higher. They probably have expectations of themselves that are higher than their opposition. And when you have a team come out scrappy, put that pressure on, it can really cause both of those teams to get fired up. And so we are seeing that now. Quench with a big pull that goes out of bounds on the far sideline.
Yes, and along with that, sometimes it can be hard for top teams not to play down when they're playing a team which is seated lower than them. Absolutely,
Phil. So it is one of those curses of Ultimate players, particularly at the competitive level that, like we're seeing here today. You play to the level of your opposition. A great team will always make a good team play better. We're seeing the shot go up, nice half field gain, but it's intercepted by Quench. Working down that far sideline. Nice little laser beam gets them back to the halfway mark. A big fake trying to get some shift of the defense on that Carnage side. Nice, comfortable high release reset. Bit of a coach killer, but it comes off cleanly. And there's a pick call on the field. So just again, for the folks watching at home, as a non-contact sport, players have to take responsibility for avoiding contact wherever possible. If a defender's pursuit of their offensive player is inhibited by that contact avoidance, that constitutes a pick. Players are allowed to essentially return to where they would have been had that pick not occurred. So the disc gets checked in. Quench looking downfield, forced to reset to the center of the field. Working back up past that Carnage defense. Great breakthrough there. Just really great movement that we're seeing from these Quench handlers. Amazing grab. Goes up one-handed. The Spider-Man catch. Just really having to work that disc. It's really clean movement, but that pressure from the mark from Carnage causes the disc to go a little bit wide. Quench not able to keep it in hands. An opportunity for the Victoria side to push back upfield, probably about the 3/4 mark, maybe 40 meters or so. Them sends the big backhand up that far sideline. It's coming in bounds. Lots of pressure from Quench. Towed in. Not. Melbourne Carnage, the great white hope, but giving Quench a full field to work back. Great pressure from that Carnage defense. We're seeing some really good cuts develop from Quench, but they're being sealed off by having those Carnage players in just close enough proximity they might be able to make a bid if those Quench players aren't committed to attacking the disc. So really, really great defense, some nice cuts developing. And it is one of the great pains of playing Ultimate at this level, and any level really, is when you see your players make fantastic cuts and you are not able to reward them because there's just that much defensive pressure. So we're just outside the zone now. Right on the doorstep, Quench knocking, hoping someone answers. Sends a big crossfield, forehand, comfortably received. 6-2 now, up by 4. Beautiful score there by Quench. We're going to get to see that again. And really, that speaks to the vision of the New South Wales side. I think a lot of players, particularly at this level, can get a bit focused, a little bit of tunnel vision. They get right on the edge of that end zone. They're looking just in front of them. And it takes a really experienced and a handler with really good vision to look that much further and realize there's so much width to the field that's able to be used, particularly when all the attention is being dragged over the disc.
Absolutely, and you also need the receive to recognise that as well. And you often get a lot of the cutters trying to jam it up into that small space, and they're not aware that there's a whole range, big earth behind them to move into. They just need to make a bit of a look to the handler, the person with the disc, to let them know this is where I'm heading, just away from you. If you can just put something nice and easy up to my advantage, I'll bring it down, I promise. That's the sort of communication you have with the experienced players, more experienced players at this Div 2 level.
Absolutely. I could not agree more. You've got just a lot of trust there in your receivers as well. I think you pretty much put the nail on the head there when you said that a lot of cutters, those downfield players, they're looking to target that narrow space, that really short space right in front of the disc. There's this kind of, I guess, habit of 5-10 meter passes being those really, really comfortable passes to make, which is fine when you're practicing throwing drills, but when you're pressured by 2 or 3 defenders all trying to target one small window, those are some of the hardest throws to make. Great upline movement there by Carnage. Overcommitment by the defender gives him a lot of opportunity, but again, that pressure from Quench sealing off a lot of downfield development. Right in the red zone now, only 5 meters or so out from a score for the Carnage. Great pressure there by Quench, just getting some fingertips to the edge of the disc. Carnage taking a knee, but unable to keep it alive. Quench 1 point away from taking the first half of the first match of the Australian Ultimate Championships Division 2 in beautiful Canberra. Can I just say, you guys really have put the weather on, haven't you?
It's looking like a fantastic day, perfect day for Ultimate. As I said earlier, the grass here a little bit dewy from a bit of cool weather overnight, but other than that, it's got a nice lushness to it. There's no reason why they can't lay out on this turf.
Great movement. Again, we're seeing some really controlled edged throws from Quench to cut through some of these spaces, to really thread needles that maybe the Carnage players think they've got closed off. So we'll see how that affects... Oh.
Commentator's
curse. Absolutely. As soon as I draw attention to something, we see that exact thing generate a turnover. So maybe this is an opportunity for Carnage here, but it's important to recognize, and probably it'll be something they think about coming into the second half, the importance of really recognizing that Quench are able to hit those windows. And Quench with another opportunity now. Great pressure defense, giving them a quick interception, targeting the far sideline. Overthrows the center handler.
Yeah, nice.
There's those layouts you were asking for, Phil.
Yeah.
Really nice long disc movement from Quench for a comfortable score as we take that first half. 8-2 now, the second-seeded Quench Y going up over the fourth-seeded Melbourne Carnage. Really, really great defense there that we're seeing, allowing Quench to generate some fantastic breaks and put some points up over the Victoria side. I imagine we will be back with you shortly. Until then, I am Blair Munro, the unofficial voice of New Zealand Ultimate.
Thanks,
and
Blair.
I'm joined in the booth by Phil Shields.
Yeah, thanks, Blair. We'll join you after the halftime break. So welcome back to the second half of this match between Quench, their Y team. They've done an XY split. And Melbourne Carnage. Quench up at the moment, 8-2. Even at the start. So just flexing on Melbourne Carnage, who will receive the disc. Quench puts their hand up now. And the disc is up. As the Carnage players move up the field. Nice reception there. And 10-metre gainer. Another 10 metres, strong one-hand grab. Nice pressure by the Quench defender as well. Looks for the dump, goes up line. Great disc to the advantage of the receiver. And there was pressure there by the Quench defender. A little bit of a nudge in the back just to let the receiver know that he was there. And that was enough to put him off from what otherwise could have been a textbook standard two-hand catch. Nice alligator catch in the centre of the chest. So the disc goes up long. Saw the receiver running long. He put the disc up a little bit too late, but Quench still coming down with everything. So it might not have been quite on screen there.
So again, we're seeing those same high angle forehands, great throws from this Quench side, really looking to push and pressure the Carnage defense as much as possible. And really, that's a crucial point for Quench as well. It's a crucial point for either team coming out of the first half. There's a big advantage to scoring that first point out of half. Had Carnage scored, it's a way to send a message to Quench to say, we're not done just yet. Yes, you're up, but we're still in this one. Quench going the other way, scoring that first point out of half, saying, we've broken you. There's been points after points, and you guys are playing well, but the devil works hard, but Quench Y work harder. And putting that point on the board saying, we're not going to let the gas off. We respect you too much to give away this lead that we have fought and stolen away from you.
Yeah, and that's good to see that, like you said, Quench are not going to give up at all. They're not going to play their game down at all, which will be a good learning curve for this Carnage team as well, because you only get better by playing teams that are not only better than you, but play better, so you can learn from them.
Go Carnage!
Great big pull there from the Quench side. Nice amount of float. Fielded well, quick cross field, targeting that near sideline. Some big fakes to try and initiate something in that downfield space.
That's gone. Looks like the two Quench defenders were poaching off the stack a bit. Now I think they're definitely man coverage, match coverage.
Great work, though, by Melbourne Carnage to recognise that poach defence that Quench were using to generate that turn and flooding that space with two players on the offense against one on the defense is almost impossible to cover. So great vision there by the Carnage offense to see that and capitalize on it. It's just a shame that laser beam up the near sideline rather didn't come off. So Quench with an opportunity to work back downfield. Quench maybe getting a little bit fancy with the disc, trying to put the stunts out on Melbourne Carnage, but it doesn't come away. Doing that same, flooding that space as the poach defense is there, putting a long backhand up, intercepted cleanly by Quench. Long points like this with a lot of trades just means both teams are playing good defense. Defense isn't dictated only by those direct interceptions and getting those blocks. It's defense is applying pressure to the players to shut down throws either at the disc or at the receiver. Great undercut there, but looked off in favor of something in that deep space. The groans from the sideline telling us that it doesn't come off. Quench to work back upfield now.
Sorry about losing track of that one. Had a bit of a glare on my viewfinder.
Huge separation on that undercut there. Maybe Carnage looking to allow those, take away those deep shots. So in fact, we're seeing a repeated pattern of a lot of separation on undercuts from Quench. Carnage know what they're looking to take away. They know Quench have those large bombs. They don't want to give easy runs into that deep downfield space. And so just enough pressure there to get that turn and hopefully put another point. But great crossfield laser beam. Finds an open receiver. A little bit pinned down by the Quench defense here, though. Hand up in the back of the zone. A low release backhand. Beautiful score by the Carnage. A lovely answer to the first point of the second half by Quench. Carnage saying, hey, we can lift our game. We know you guys aren't taking foot off the gas, so neither will we. 9-3. Still in favor of New South Wales, but Victoria not afraid to answer with points of their own. And we see that one again. A nice throw, but comes out a little bit low. Players recognizing what the conditions are and are not taking away. We've talked a little bit about that cross breeze that's going from near sideline to far sideline. There's not a lot of upwind, downwind. And so there's nothing discouraging Quench from taking those big, deep shots that have come off really, really well for them. Carnage recognizing, responding in kind by allowing those players to make those undercuts instead, forcing them to make several passes to make up the same yardage that they might on one of those deep shots. Every single pass made is an opportunity for a turnover. And we just saw that one there. A great undercut, pressured too much by Carnage. The disc finds ground. Some really, really nice disc movement, a crossfield laser beam, and then that low release backhand to close out the score for the Melbourne Carnage as they come out on defense. We are just halfway through the 54th minute. Still a race to 15. Still anybody's game. But the window is slowly closing on Melbourne Carnage, and Quench will be looking to hold this point, put another one on the board, and just keep the pressure on. So the pull goes out of bounds on the near side. Signal for the brick being given. We can see an X on your screen. It's about 18 meters in front of the end zone, about halfway across the field. That's where Quench will take the disc in. It gives them essentially a free centering. They don't have to work it off the sideline, which takes some of the pressure off. A great undercut there. Big fakes to shift the mark, and then a quick give and go. Quench with an opportunity to put one around the mark, but it's looked off by that huge Carnage pressure. Forced to work back the other sideline. We're seeing a hand go up as players target the end zone. I'm open, give me something. Through traffic for a great score. Quench going up now by 7 as they hit the 10-point mark. And again, it's those narrow throwing windows. The New South Wales side, Quench Y here, doing a fantastic job of finding such small gaps that maybe less confident disc handlers wouldn't feel comfortable putting discs through. We see here, despite 2 defenders within a couple of meters of the disc, Quench just put one through comfortably. They know they've got the speed, the control, the touch to get the disc through those narrow gaps and comfortably score just at the front of the end zone.
Yes, and interestingly enough, Quench put on a horizontal look for that point. I think they collapsed into a vert as they approached the end zone, but good to see them trying something different as maybe the score is already written as far as Melbourne Carnage for this match goes, and we start closing out the game.
Now, it's interesting that you mentioned the sort of the implementation of a horizontal stack there. So the 2 most common offensive structures in a game of Ultimate, particularly at this level, you're going to see a vertical stack, which looks to create channels up the near and far sidelines of the field, using the width of the field as much as possible to create those offensive opportunities. But you'll also see a horizontal stack, which you see a lot against zone defenses, which we haven't seen a lot of in this game so far. And that looks to open up a lot of space in that downfield deep shots, which we know Quench can take. We know they can hit those options, but also in that underspace. We've seen the Quench defense do a lot of poaching, so playing off their marks to try and shut down some of those windows. And that's another option. So when we talked about how Melbourne Carnage are able to flood that space with 2 offenders or vice versa, bit of miscommunication there, giving Quench an opportunity now. Just close enough to the end zone. We might see an isolation play if we're lucky. But that horizontal space being able to be flooded by 2 or more players. So if you get a confident thrower, they can just put a disc up deep, have 2 of their players just move into that space, swamp the defense, and give themselves enough opportunities to close a point out. So we are seeing a great isolation cut there. A little bit slippery on the dewy ground. It's followed up by 2 slash cuts to the far sideline. Quench instead having to work the disc back between the handlers to try and open something up. We're seeing another set cut with great separation, but it's looked off. And that handler reset just moves into the zone, finds themselves free, gets a great score as we go 11-3.
Yes, I'll let you have a look at this replay and commentate us through it. But interestingly enough, what I saw at the beginning of that point was, I said before, the point before it looked like we had 2 defensive players at the front of the stack, but at the beginning of that point, it was really almost looking like a clam just until the players picked up the players that were making cuts, and then they went into full match defense. But they started off with a bit of a clam look. I think that threw the Melbourne Carnage players in a bit of disarray. They weren't too sure who was actually taking them, where they could make their cuts.
And really, that's one of the key things that it's important to recognize about this kind of high-level Ultimate is the hardest job in the world is to play defense, but it's a great thing to do because either you get beaten, which is what the offense is supposed to do, or you get the pleasant surprise of generating a turn and scoring off it. But if that defense doesn't know exactly what it's trying to take away, if everyone isn't on the same page, it does create those offensive opportunities that a team like Quench can capitalize on very, very efficiently. So we're seeing that same sort of thing. It looks a bit more of a zone. We're seeing some players poach off a little bit, try and clog the space.
Definitely taking away all that underspace start off with for the first throw or 2.
Great cut from the back of the zone, but as the players seeing those discs move, they bail out of the cut, looking to clear that space again. Just short movement of that disc. A big hammer goes up just outside of the end zone. Would have been a lovely score for them. How are they going to close it off? Those same tight windowed forehands. A great score for Quench. Why to go 12-3 over Melbourne Carnage. Still about 30 minutes left on the clock for the game before we hit soft cap, but Quench now only 3 points away from putting away their win in this stream game for the Australian Ultimate Championships Division 2 in beautiful sunny Canberra. Just really clinical offense play here. I don't know if I've actually seen Quench throw a flat disc all game, but we're going to put that down to intention rather than execution. No doubt in my mind that the stylish bucket cap there, a bit of extra assistance on that score.
What the Quench defense looks like here.
Great high pull. There's a lot of float. So we are seeing a zone defense for the Quench, looking to close off space as much as possible. Requires a lot of communication. They send a high shot up. Carnage not able to get a hand to it.
Not too sure if that was a panic sort of pressure throw because saw the zone on, wanted to release it quickly, try and break through the zone, make a bit of an attacking move.
And that really is the thing when you're looking at a zone like that, particularly a really tight cup that Quench were playing. You can either go over the top, which looked to be the option there, as Carnage come down in a person or match defense, takes it two hands over the bidding Carnage defender, working through to the cleanest Quench receiver we've seen so far. Huge separation there. So again, we're seeing Carnage maybe sagging off a bit on that defense, looking to prioritize allowing Quench those undercuts in the hope of stopping them from targeting that deep field space. But they're able to keep making gains from them. Nearly stumbled into a layout, but not quite enough. So Carnage will take possession with a long field ahead of them to walk back. Quench again setting up that zone space. Trying to bait the top. We do see the cheeky scuba as the zone tries to shift into position to cover things off one more time. And so we're seeing really great zone offense. They're just trying to move the disc around, trying to force the cup out of position. We're seeing it there. That option might have been on for a quick continuation up the field, but once those three players who are sort of heading the defense of that zone are out of position, it becomes a game of 7 versus 4. A lot of float on it. Great. 1v3. Some have called it a hospital pass before, in a sense that a disc like that's going to send someone to the hospital. I've always preferred to think of it as a mayonnaise pass, as in mayonnaise, a lot of people underneath that disc, but Melbourne Carnage go up. They climb the ladder, they put the roof out, down the three Quench defenders in that deep space. What a play. Melbourne Carnage, a necessary point to keep them in the game. 12-4 now as we hit the 65th minute of our match, rather. Well done, son. You should be proud of that one. Oh, we get to see it again. Number 8 goes up. Cleanly takes that one down. His teammates can hardly believe it. So Carnage to come down and defend a zone defense really, really well over the last couple of points to try and apply that pressure over the last couple of possessions at least. Carnage so far, just a lot more person defense, hoping to isolate those matchups as much as possible. But again, we're seeing them allow a lot of undercuts back towards the disc, which is giving Quench a huge opportunity to make short but repeated gains up the field. So maybe Carnage need to change something up to apply more pressure to this Quench side and put a few more points on the board. Great OI pull with the backhand. It's going to touch down early. A little bit of roll. Stopped by Quench. Quickly centered. Sends the big shot up. But again, huge edge on those discs.
One bounce. One hand, one bounce.
Unfortunately, it's not cricket rules. We don't keep possession after that.
But, that cut came very early from a horizontal stack. The throw just came a bit later than would have been desired by that cutter. Nice read there by the Quench defender, coming in to take that handler cut away, create the turnover.
Quench 22, 23 meters out. 10 now, great closing throw. There's the layout, but looks like it's been called out by Carnage. So the first point of contact where the disc was secured, the first point of contact with the ground is going to determine exactly the status of that throw. A little bit hard for us to see here from the booth. You can hear the cry from the crowd, check the tape. Unfortunately, we do not have the answers. As Ultimate is a self-officiated sport, it's up to the players to referee themselves to make those calls and discuss them where necessary. Again, I'll be petitioning the World Flying Disc Federation to try and get the rule of cool established. When a score looks that good, even if it might have been out, maybe we need to just let them have it.
Rule of cool sounds good.
Okay, so it looks like a contested play there, so the disc will go back. So players were not able to agree as to the status of the, therefore it'll go back to the last uncontested play. Quench will keep possession. Those same edged forehands, trying for that backhand again. Going up over the top, just outside of the zone, looking to quickly reset. Threads a laser beam through. Again, those narrow windows, Carnage players in close proximity, but just the vision, the touch, the skill as Quench put another one on the board, 13-4 over Melbourne Carnage. As we hit the 69th minute, what a nice opportunity there. We'll see it again. Great high release flick, received well. Number one looking to reset. There's the laser beam. Great work by the Quench side.
As we close this match out, Quench looking to practice a few different defensive looks. We've had a bit of a poach, a bit of a clam, and a three-man cup. What will they choose now?
But as you say, Phil, it's one of those weird balancing acts when you've got a point advantage like Quench currently have. you want to stick to what works. You want to respect your opponent enough to play hard. But at the same time, you do want to try a few things out. You want to do some drilling to see what are going to be our options against some of our future matchups. But they generate the turn there. Quench, disc, center field. Slightly overcooked a little bit. But if nothing else, it's great territory for Quench. Melbourne Carnage a full field ahead of them if they want to put another point on the board to stop the here-to unstoppable Quench Y train.
Yes, and this is the first game of the tournament, as you said. Quench are looking to at least put into motion some tournament level match practice before they go into the next few games of this pool, as they score another one.
An absolute display of filth there. Just the quick toes in, high release backhand over the top. Some great fakes there that we saw in the initiation, the lead up to that score. We might get the chance to see that again, although it might have been before this play. We're seeing huge bids from the defense, but there it is, just that defense out of position, knowing the window's there, having the vision to see your teammate making space in that end zone, and just having the confidence with the throws to be able to hit them. 1, 2, stops. And just dead pin, no pivot, puts a backhand up for a score. Quench Y within 1 point of their first win.
So just continuing on,
becoming in
practicing a few different looks. Carnage, it'd be nice if they also might try something different. It looks like they're just trying to stay with their offensive stack at the moment, just to really consolidate that that might be their only look for all of today, all of the tournament, until they get that solid. But it would be nice for them to think about transitioning into a horizontal look and at least get that under their belt as well.
Absolutely, and I guess as well, considering the defensive pressure that we've seen from Quench, it's important for them to change things up when those turns happen. So it's quite common on an offensive line. Typically, you'll call what you're planning to do on a turn if someone generates a turn, but there's always that one player. Great score there by Carnage. Just really clean, clinical ultimate. Just a series of continuation passes up that far sideline for a great score. But there's always that one player on the field who says, well, we're not going to turn it, so it doesn't matter. And that little bit of cockiness is always a nice little boost for the team to recognize, hey, we can play perfect offense, as we've seen Carnage just do as they go up by 1 more point. It's 14-5 in favor of Quench Y. But an opportunity as they come out on defense to maybe try something else as well. We've seen a lot of person defense from Carnage, but one of the old ultimate sayings, you should never lose a game without throwing down a zone. So hopefully, as they know they are potentially 1 point away from this game ending, they need to give everything to claw back this first match. And a zone defense might just be what is necessary for it. We know that we've seen Quench Y make some really, really nice throws, some very sort of like angled and I guess clinical smart throws. But those have been to open receivers. If Carnage come down in a zone, they might be able to clog up a lot more of that space, narrow some of those windows, and really force Quench to play a bit more conservative with the disc.
Here we go with a pull again, and Carnage not, because of the scoreline, having much of an opportunity to pull out different defensive looks, as we almost see a run down to take the D on the first throw, but missed it by about a metre.
What great speed, though. You could see how much ground was gained as he tried to slow down. Great closing speed on that zone. On that defense, rather. Quench able to work up the far sideline. Some nice gainers. A little bit of a huck goes up. A lot of float. Carnage apply the pressure. but there may have been contact on that one, so it looks like players will be having a discussion as to what the consequence will be. Quench trying to make the argument that contact was made, and therefore I would have had that one if you hadn't gotten involved. We'll get to see that a little bit closer up. Well, it looked like number 11 was at least in front of the Quench player. So it looked like the bender was actually coming from behind on offense. And it didn't really look like number 11 for Melbourne Carnage had to change his line to target the disc. So it seems as though Quench might have just been a little bit on the back foot there. But again, it doesn't come to us. It is the player's decision as to what happens. It's a self-officiated sport, prioritizing communication and openness between the players and respecting themselves and their opposition as much as possible.
Bit of discussion. Generally, after about 30 seconds of discussion, if there can't be a resolution, the disc will be brought back to the previous person who had the disc in an uncontested, clean fashion.
So there we go. We can see those hand signals give that it is a foul, and the pounding of the fist telling us that it's contested. As you mentioned, Phil, the disc is now going to go back to the last uncontested possession. So Quench will have it. As they were looking to close out that score, players need to return to where they were on the field or as close as possible to when that play was the active play. Some last-minute communication. The disc gets checked in. Instead, forced to look crossfield. A nice high flick. Great effort by number 11 on the Carnage side, trying to shut that one down, but it's not quite enough. We're seeing big wings, lots of active defense on the disc, but Quench still able to make some great movement of players up the field. A low release forehand, a laser beam finds ground instead of hands, and so Carnage have an opportunity here. We'll see that one again. Yeah, just overthrown. Quench having to look backwards to try and keep that one, but it wasn't going to happen. Great deep cuts developing, but Quench have the coverage. There it is, another turn, a long field, a long march back, but we're seeing those same contact calls, and it's one of those things that happens quite often in situations like this, when a game is quite close, when it's early on in the tournament, you're still trying to find your feet. You maybe, particularly on the Carnage side, you're saying, we know we can play better than this. Quench really hungry to close out this point and kind of consolidate the work that they've put in so far. Things tend to get a little bit perhaps more contentious as the game proceeds. Carnage hoping to finish this one out. High shot, pulled down. Great score by Carnage. Another point on the board. Fantastic work there. Great patience, great vision. And you could hear the call, comebacks on, choo-choo, the train.
See the Quench players, they're just running back to the line, put a bit more energy into their game. They've sort of really taken their foot off the pedal, as can happen with such a lead. They sort of think it's in the bag, give a bit more space. They're maybe thinking about their next game, wanting to get off the field.
Trying to conserve a bit of energy, absolutely. But it is one of those things that's important to recognise. Unlike other games, your rugby, your netball, things like that, football, the game doesn't end when the time runs out. That's the key thing with Ultimate. The game ends when the last point is scored. Now, in this case, we're looking at a game to 15. Under other circumstances, we might be looking at adjusting that point cap based on the score when that 90 minutes runs out. So it is still well within the realm of possibility for Melbourne Carnage to stage a huge upset. 9 consecutive breaks will see them take away the win. Quench an offensive hold to put this one away. But as you pointed out, Phil, Quench have kind of let that pressure off. They've let Melbourne come back quite a bit. They were held, I think, 9-2 at one point. So Melbourne Carnage definitely able to pour on the pressure in the later stages of this game. But a pick has... no, not a pick, sorry. It looked like a pick was being called. Big fakes to initiate movement downfield. Trying to cue those cutters, those downfield cutters, to move into space to open themselves up for a reception. Quench targeting the far sideline. There's a deep cut developing. It's not covered super well by Carnage. And there's the game. You could see that one happening. The player just had that extra separation. Great attempt at closing by Carnage, but not quite close enough to put that one. Quench going up 15-6 over Melbourne Carnage to take away their first game of the Australian Ultimate Championships in beautiful Canberra.
Yes, in this Div 2 division. So Carnage will have a lot to take away from that game as they go into the next few games. A lot of learning going on there. Quench being able to put on a few different defensive looks and a few offensive looks as well. So they've at least had a chance to practice a few more things in this game as they go into the next few games also. So both teams coming away with some positives from that game.
Well done by both of those teams, putting on a fantastic display for us at home and those who are there on site on the field with the good fortune to watch. Lovely Ultimate being played. Until then, this has been Quench Y and Melbourne Carnage for the first match of the game. My name, as always, is Blair Munro, brought to you by Hammertron Ultimate. Thank you very much.
Yes, thanks Blair for joining us as well. And if you are viewing us on the live stream, please link this to your friends and let them know that Ultra TV is doing a coverage of the Div 1 and the Div 2 and the Women's National Australian Championships. This is Phil Schultz also thanking you, Blair, and thanking you for your time and your viewership.
Thank you very much, guys. See you in the next game.